Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to Justin Cooper from Sqrrl. Thanks for joining us today, Justin.
No, not at all. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Please give us an overview of Sqrrl, what you do, and where it fits in the supply chain cycle, please.
So, Sqrrl Solutions is a flexible warehousing company. So, we provide warehousing, access to warehousing outside of the traditional mechanisms of leases. So, if you need a warehouse, you need it for less time than, say, 20 years, or you don't need an entire building. Whatever you mean by flexible, that's where we operate. We've been around for about a decade now in various guises, and our current guise is Sqrrl Solutions. We've been operating for a year, and what we do is bring technology to quite a traditional warehousing sector to really create some innovation and we think unlock a load of potential in the supply chain.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I always ask the same question of everyone. What brought you into the lovely logistics world?
Serendipity, I think. So it was innovation really that brought me into the sector. So I'm from a technology and innovation background, and I've worked in various sectors, from financial services through travel, through marketing services. And one of the common themes through that is you see different sectors at different points in their evolution needing change and really benefiting from change. And that's powered either by the power of computing or hardware development or whatever it might be. In the logistics sector, I think there's a prime opportunity right now to really accelerate growth in the sector and work to leverage the power of technology. So that was the thing that brought me into the sector. That's also the reason why I haven't left, because I feel that even more strongly now since having made the mistake of coming into it.
Yeah, most people in this, including myself, sort of fell into it, but once you're in, you get into it, you really enjoy it. So please tell us about your business sector and how you see this sector developing in the next few years.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The warehousing sector has been around for quite a while. Like, warehouses aren't new; they're a thing. But the way that the supply chain works in modern terms, particularly over the next 5 years, is going to be increasingly putting strain, I think, on the traditional model of how warehouses are funded, built, and operated. So I think we've got an opportunity there to kind of readdress some of the imbalance that's coming, that was already here and increasing. So buildings in the wrong place, in the wrong shape, in the wrong spec, and really getting the ability to access those warehouses through a much more modern kind of way of trading. So seeing something on a digital environment, being able to transact digitally and being able to operate at pace is going to be one of the key enablers, I think, certainly for that 3 to 5 year horizon.
Thank you. And if you're describing the sort of biggest opportunities and threats in the sector, how would you talk about them?
I think the threat and opportunity is two sides of one coin, isn't it? So it depends where you are in your business at a particular point in time. But you see the disruption in the supply chain. We all talk about the impact of various wars. You see the key supply chains getting blocked through tariffs or through physical blockages like the Suez Canal. And that creates a problem for some people. The person that's got the boat stuck in the Suez Canal, it's a problem. An opportunity for other shipping companies, perhaps. And the same can be, I think, said for our sector, where this imbalance is getting bigger, not smaller. So the need for pace and flexibility, agility in the supply chain to deal with all these different scenarios that are coming at logisticians from different angles. There seems to be a new one every couple of years. The ability to be flexible creates an opportunity for a flexible warehousing business. That's why we're here, because we see this as a really strong growth sector. And what that means is we are able then to not impact not stifle the economy by enabling it to grow just through a different mechanism. So rather than having to build dozens more buildings, which may or may not be the right thing to do, you can access buildings already there in a different way. access that fractional or grey space, for example. But that opportunity also creates a threat, which is then the long-term confidence with all this change and flux in supply, in supply and demand, creates a lack of confidence for businesses to invest. And that ultimately will be a threat to the UK economy if we don't get that balance right. So people aren't going to invest if they don't have the confidence that they know what's going to happen over the next few years. And increasing that forecasting has become more and more difficult. So we think one way to do this is to get to open up this flexible portion of the market. So have a core part of your network, or the UK's storage network, that is fixed, because there's going to be a base level requirement need anyway. But then when you get these events, COVID, Suez Canal, Gaza, Ukraine, there's enough infrastructure there, we think, in the UK to be able to be leveraged, and that opportunity, we think, is there for the country to grab. But we need more investment in the sector. We need to be able to get businesses confident that they can invest in the sector. So I think there's a mix of a lack of confidence combined with a need for increased agility creates two sides of that coin.
No, thank you for explaining that so well, Justin. And perhaps you could give us an example of how it works. Because I'd imagine when companies are committing to warehousing, they're obviously committing to multiple years, even a decade, where you may not have that requirement for that need of warehousing for a period. So how does it work in actuality? If you can paint a picture for us, please.
Yeah. So it can manifest in different ways, but the root cause issue is a lot of these buildings, they are quite big, they're quite expensive. The requirements and specifications for the businesses to invest is going up, because those warehouses need to be more efficient, more sustainable. The cost of land is going up, the cost of construction is going up. So the cost of those assets goes up, therefore the rent goes up. So buildings are becoming more expensive. And this creates a huge step for someone that wants to either expand their business. So an example is we work with fast-growing business, and they want to take their next step in growth. So they're growing at about 400% a year. That's a phenomenal story. But are they going to keep growing at 400% a year? And do they plan for 1 year, 2 years ahead? But at least that they're going to have to sign is going to be 15 years. So they came to us because they didn't want to sign a 15-year lease. They have absolutely no idea if they're even going to exist in 15 years, let alone whether, what kind of growth rate they might need. So what they want to be able to do is scale their warehousing as their business scales. So it's a perfect opportunity where we say, don't get your own warehouse yet. Why don't you just lease one? But we can get you one on a much shorter basis. And you can put your own team in to operate that lease. Do that on a 2-year basis. That gives you surety that you've got that place for the next 2 years. And whilst you're on that journey, you can see if you're still tracking at 400, or if you're now 800, or if you're down to 200% growth. And then you can forecast what you need in the years after. So we provide that warehouse to them with everything they need to run their business. So it means that there's no stamp duty. It means that there's no business rates. There's no facilities management. It's all wrapped up into one fee. So they can focus on their business. They run their business. We provide everything else. We just give them the keys, and off they go and they operate. And when they come to being able to predict what happens next, we sit down with them again and we plan, right, you need one that's twice the size. Fine, we'll get you a new building, or we'll increase the size of the one you're in by taking more of that building you're in. So that's an example where you've got a fast-growing business needing help and support. And then you have bigger businesses, for example, a retailer we work with, they actually have the right size network, we think. It's just in the wrong place because it was built 20 years ago. So now they've got warehouses that were great back in the day, not so great now, and they're in the wrong place, and you can't move them. So the kind of physical, just a reality check of their demand is now in different parts of the country using different forms of transport, and they need to get different businesses. So we provide them with overspill capacity, so they can store their stock closer to the points of demand. So it enables them to respond more quickly to their customers in the right parts of the country, so they don't have to trunk it all the way down the country. They can store it close to the point of demand, but keep their operations in their traditional locations, because that's where they're established and they've got their workforce, etc. But by opening up these different nodes for their distribution, where they're not getting an entirely new building and a single point of failure, they've got a distributed warehouse network strategy, and those nodes then enable them to operate more effectively. And that's facilitated by a piece of software that we've built called Pallet Hotel. So what we do there is it's another one of these areas where innovation is, I mean, I am going to say this, aren't I? But where innovation really helps. Yeah. You've got a lot of pieces of data that move across the supply chain, and they're often in quite a fragmented way it moves. So bits of paper handed to a truck driver, handed into a desk, keyed into a system, uploaded, downloaded, etc. And that's all quite clunky. Even in today's supply chains, it's still quite clunky. What we do is we provide a connectivity platform that enables customers, and particularly as a retailer, for example, to book their stock into the warehouse. So we want to put some stock into this warehouse. That warehouse is just a slice of someone else's warehouse. It's part of the Pallet Hotel, so the customer can book them into the warehouse right near where their point of demand is. They then have a view of their stock, so they know what stock's in which warehouse where, and they've got multiple warehouses across the UK, and they can then draw that stock down from that warehouse. As, for example, they're doing at the moment, they're building in peak, they'll draw that stock down and push that out to all of their retailers as they need to. But they've got complete view of that in one system, which is the problem with a lot of time using outside storage solutions. You don't have a view of where your stock is. So they can push out an individual SKU from all of their sites to all of their retailers at the push of a button, and then they can organize all of those deliveries at the push of a button as well through the system. So it enables you to then book your deliveries out from the warehouse. So this single platform enables this distributed network of warehouses that's enabling this retailer to not have to shut down its warehouse and get 5 new warehouses in different locations and get rid of all that decades of experience they built in that site in their workforce. They can now keep that workforce as it is, but have these flexible solutions they can spin up to enable them to build stock for peak, for example. And that is a game changer, we think. That really enables this company to be able to make much more agile decisions, much more responsive to market changes, and then also cope with the flux it sees in seasonality, for example. So there are a couple of examples there of how we've used our technology and our business model to really open up the sector.
Thank you. That's really good, Justin, because it paints a good picture of what your business does, because all the businesses throughout the sector do different things in very clever ways, but some real examples really, really help. So thank you for going through that with us.
Nice.
What are people in the sector not talking about publicly that perhaps they should be?
Yeah, I think the green agenda is something that is not really talked about. I mean, no, it's talked about, but not in the right way, I should say. So it's a real thing that is just an uncomfortable truth a lot of the time, that there is much more that can be done in the sector. Warehousing specifically is a good example of where it's quite a heavy footprint you got to build a warehouse. A lot of concrete and steel goes into a warehouse that has a footprint, and then all of the movements in and out of those warehouses have a footprint. And the way that the industry is built is very rigid, very kind of static. Big buildings that are on long-term leases that can't be moved. And so that investment's got to be realised. And unless those buildings are 100% utilisation or high percentage utilisation, the return on the carbon investment, if you like, is really, really long. And there's lots and lots of capacity out there, but it's fragments of buildings. So there's 30% of a building here, 20% of a building there. all of those pieces add up, and it's just wastage. You see the air that's being heated that doesn't need to be heated or chilled, and it's a building that's not being sweated as it should have been. So it's kind of like this truism that isn't discussed, which is that there is a better way of doing things that opens up a way to reduce our emissions, reduce our impact, while still sustaining growth in the UK. But that's not really a conversation that is kind of had explicitly, I would say.
No, thank you. And interestingly, the next question we've got is, how do you see the green transition impacting the sector? And maybe a little sub-question, do you think things can happen by market forces, or do you think we all need some legislation or guidance from the governments?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun with your green question.
No problem.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, so there is change. I mean, it is happening. You see fleets becoming modernised. You see people with more consideration about the carbon contribution, and I think that is done through a mix of enforced reporting and punitive measures, as well as organisations wanting to do the right thing. I think the answer is probably a bit of carrot and stick, unfortunately, because the reality is, if you're fighting for survival, then you're going to be watching the bottom line. I mean, that's what matters. So that's the thing that brings you to the table. It's the thing that gets your attention. I think if we can build a level of efficiency and kind of capability into the supply chains, particularly into warehousing, where it's the carbon, and particularly carbon, but efficiency is sustainability is built in by design rather than as an afterthought. It makes life a lot easier. When you're trying to retrofit a carbon agenda or a sustainability agenda to a building that was built way before the thing was a recognized topic, it's really hard because it's just concrete that's already gone down. It's steel that leaks like a sieve because there's no insulation, there's no infrastructure around that building for green energy or rainwater harvesting or anything like that. So I think there's a need to legislate, but also by just encouraging best practice through economic relief, perhaps, on getting the right type of buildings built and upgrading, modernizing buildings that have already been built so that they're not abandoned and in favor of brand new shiny buildings. Because I think that's a travesty as well, that if we don't use the buildings that already had their carbon expended, you end up with just a load of wastage. So yeah, I think there's probably a balance of getting good practice embedded in the industry, getting it designed in so that the buildings and supply chains are designed to be sustainable, and then a very healthy dose of education and legislation as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. What development in the sector surprised you most in your career so far?
I'd say that I've got a biased view of this sector, right? So just take that with a pinch of salt when I say it. So the lack of pace in adopting new technologies has surprised me, because logically it makes sense, but there are a whole bunch of physical and logical, practical issues that get in the way of things actually happening. Some of that is about resistance to change, but a lot of it is around just the practicalities of making something happen, the ripple effect it has down a supply chain. Camera vision is a good example. There's really good use cases out there for camera vision, and it's really not been adopted to the same extent. The costs are super low now. The capability is really high. Combine it with AI, you've got a whole load of things you can do that are really, really powerful. But to adopt that and really make the most of all that capability in your organization is a lot of change, and that requires people to change the way they do things, the way that systems operate, the way that operations run, and that's quite tricky because most people are just busy trying to deliver today not worrying about tomorrow. So that, I think, is a kind of contradiction. But I think the tide is turning on that now, because the pace is becoming so fast that we can't ignore it anymore. But that has surprised me that there's not more eagerness to adopt some of the new technologies.
No, I appreciate that. And the final question I'm asking everyone, if you could speak to the Prime Minister, then what would you ask them to do to help your business and sector grow and flourish?
I think we operate in the flexible space, and therefore we are designed to be here for the unknown, the unforeseen, and to deal with the stress situations as much as the planned. But I think one of the things that really helps businesses, and if businesses are doing well, they're investing, that's going to do well for us, is economic certainty. So just providing a clear agenda and a consistent policy that enables us to make decisions on the long term, that will really help establish the UK as a grow as a hub for logistics, and particularly in Europe. So I would really ask that we get consistency of policy and execution in the supply chain industry. I've just thought of something else as well, because I'm now picturing him in front of me. Not that you look like him. I'm just saying that if he were in front of me, I'm visualizing him. I think the other thing is then obviously bringing in skills into the industry as well. This is something that it's the backbone of the UK economy, and getting the right workforce and the awareness that workforce and the recognition by the government in this sector, I think is another trick that they've missed. Because actually you look at the workforce and the challenges we face, and it comes up time and time again as one of the key challenges for businesses. Yet is there enough done to recruit into that sector and to maintain the skills and give the recognition for that sector? And I think, again, there's more the government can do with training, accreditation, tax relief, and with support for industry bodies.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Just want to say thank you very much, Justin, for your time and going through what your business does and your comments. Just want to say thank you. I'm sure our viewers and listeners will really enjoy it. Thanks again.
That was great. It's a pleasure. Thank you.